Welcome back to the early tea time live stream, everybody. Golf is back. It feels great to see the golf odds and the DFS salaries get out today on this Monday. It's been a couple of really tough Mondays, not having anything to focus my non-work mind on. So happy to be back. Welcome back to the early tea time live stream presented by Fantasy Points. Again, we're back after probably one of the shortest off seasons in all of sports. I can't think of any other sports that have a short off season or at least a break in between their championship and then their very first event or game, I guess you could say, of the next season. So really like that about golf, I guess. I don't know. I like playing it while NFL is going on. I guess we could talk about that a little bit too. Hopefully you all had a good NFL Sunday yesterday and Thursday, I guess. We have another game tonight, of course, too. So I would love to know who you are stacking, or I guess who you are captaining tonight in the showdown contest. But you're not here for football, you're here for golf. Welcome to the 2022-2023 PGA Tour season. The Fortinet Championship will kick off the new season on the PGA Tour this year, similar to last year, but it's gone through a variety of name changes over the last decade. I think we had the Fries.com Open, the Safeway Open, I believe, was also, or the championship was the name of it as well until Fortinet, kicked it off last year with the debut of their own name for the tournament. The FedEx points have been reset, and the new players from the Korn Ferry Tour will be teeing it up this week, which means we have 30 to 40 new players to play in DFS. I'll try and break down some of them, at least the ones that I like, heading into the new season a little bit later in the show. Today, we're going to break down the Silverado golf course. We'll go hole by hole. We'll also talk about some of the main things that I think you should consider as you are making your DFS lineups and betting card this week. Again, we'll break down the course. We'll also look at some of the best DFS plays, or at least who's catching my eye early on this Monday. There's still a lot to come out as far as ownership goes, but we'll talk about all of that in the show here today. Let's go ahead and start by breaking down the Silverado Resort and Spa. If you have any questions as well as we're going throughout this show, I would love to hear you. Go ahead and throw that on the YouTube channel here. While you're there, please throw a like and subscribe as well. Really trying to build out that YouTube channel. So would really appreciate that. Thanks for joining tonight. So let's go. Again, Silverado Resort and Spa. It's located in Napa Valley, California. The golf course was designed by Ben Harmon, and it was opened in 1955. It's had a few redesigns since then as well. Robert Trent Jones redesigned the course in 1966, and Johnny Miller, I think he actually purchased the entire resort in 2010, 2011, and he tried to enhance it a little bit to make it better for championship play. So it did go through some changes in 2011. The course was lengthened a little bit. The fairways were widened. Some of the bunkers were updated, and the tee boxes were pushed back a little bit to again make it a championship play level of golf course. The course is, though, a resort course, so it isn't really the toughest course. It is more of a birdie fest than a difficult test for golfers. The winning score over the last 10 years has been somewhere between -14 and -21. Stuart Sink has the course or the tournament record at -21. He won in 2020, 2 years ago. So the North Course at Silverado. So there's two different courses. The one that they will play on this week is the North Course. It's par 72 that measures a shade over 7,100 yards long. So this is actually the shortest par 72 course that we'll see on tour this season. Probably, which makes it, wise, or I guess, which is why it's one of the easier ones, I guess you could say. The course features greens with a POA and a bent grass mixture. The GSCA didn't provide much else on the fact card for those of you that like to look at that as I do. It doesn't provide an average green size. It doesn't provide how many bunkers there are, how many water hazards as well. So that kind of sucks. I do just enjoy looking at that. Not that it actually impacts it a whole lot, but I just like comparing it to other courses. But so there's not a whole lot to go on as far as that. But looking at the course from an aerial view, you see really large greens. The fairways are pretty wide, in my opinion. There's a lot of tall trees and deep sand bunkers that I think are probably the biggest difficulty or the biggest defender of the course, I guess you could say. When looking at the whole makeup or the scorecard, there are 6 par 4s that measure 400 to 450 yards, 3 par 3s that measure 175 to 200, and 3 par 5s that measure 550 to 600 yards long. Really, that's all I have as far as course information goes. Like I said, there really wasn't a whole lot to go off of. The cut line has been anywhere from even par to -4 since 2015. It was -3 last year. So, look for your golfers to try to get into that range as you are sweating those lineups on Friday. It's great to be back. Man, I can't wait for a cut sweat on Friday. All right, let's go ahead and break down the course. We'll go hole by hole. We'll start off with hole 1. It is a par 4. It's 436 yards long. It is the 13th most difficult hole in terms of difficulty. And I'll say all this information is coming from Fantasy National or the Napa Golf Course website or the Silverado Resort website. So I definitely didn't get all this facts from anywhere. I didn't make these up. Again, it's all coming from those two websites, Fantasy National and the SilveradoResort.com website. And again, if you have any questions, let me know, please. But again, hole 1, par 4, 436 yards. Again, it is the 13th in difficulty, so it's a relatively easy hole to start off with. The hole features an elevated green that is protected by 2 large sand bunkers on each side of it. And you'll see one bunker on each side of the green plenty of times throughout this course breakdown. There are a few trees on each side of the fairway, but it looks relatively large, I think, compared to other PGA Tour courses. I'm talking about the fairway. Most golfers will probably have a mid-iron to the green on this hole. I do think we'll see a lot of wedges, 100 to 125 to 150 as well. Like I said, a lot of wedges this week, in my opinion, with it being a short course here. The second hole at Silverado presents a difficult test for players early on in their round. The par 3 hole measures 197 yards, and it features a very elevated green. The green is large, and it has a slight slope from the back to the front. There are 2 large bunkers that protect the sides of the green, and they're kind of tricky to get up and down from. The par 3 sees bogeys over 21% of the time, just compared to a 7.5 birdie rate. The hole looks a bit similar to the green on hole 1. Like I said, you can see the 2 bunkers, one on each side of the green. We do see that quite a bit throughout the makeup of this course. Moving on to the third hole, it is a par 4. This one measures 424 yards long. It ranks 6th in difficulty due to the tough tee shot that golfers tend to face. The dogleg left has a large oak tree that sits on the left side of the fairway. The green slope from the left to the right, and you'll want to land your approach shot below the hole, or you're probably going to have a difficult 2-putt. You don't want to be putting from above the hole. Like I said, you probably will have a difficult 2-putt in that case. Moving on to the fourth hole, this one measures 407 yards long. It is a par 4 as well. This one ranks 5th in difficulty. I would say that the front 9 is much more difficult than the back 9. You'll see some easier holes as we get into the later part of this course. This hole features a fairway that slopes to the right, and it has a large bunker on the right side. So you're definitely going to want to have your golfers, aim left, or at least on the left side of the fairway. The green here is one of the more difficult greens to hit, and it's shallow, as well as protected by 2 sand bunkers as well. So again, 2 sand bunkers typically protect a lot of these greens here, and they are large and deep. Hole 5, it is a par 5. This one is a double dogleg. It's the easiest hole on the course, though. The double dogleg probably prevents this hole from having a ton of eagles. It's only 538 yards long, but it sees birdies at a 44% rate. There are a few bunkers that protect the hole, but you should be looking for a birdie here. The green is large and has relatively little breaks compared to some of those other elevated greens that we were just talking about. Hole number 6, it's a par 4. This one is 417 yards long. And I'll tell you, this yardage is a little bit different from the Napa Silverado Resort website. I'm using the Fantasy National stats. Of course, these tee boxes could move around as well. So the yardage might be a little bit different, but again, this is just what Fantasy National has given me. So again, it might be a little bit different than the Silverado website, which is the resort website. So that's why I'm using the Fantasy National yardage, just because I think that's the championship yardage. Okay, so again, we're moving on to, we're on hole 6, I believe. This one's 417, again, 8th in difficulty. There's a bunker to the left of the fairway and one to the right of the green. The tall trees on the right of the green also get in the way if you miss the short grass. There's a 15% birdie rate and a 15% bogey rate. You'll hear me talk a lot about these tall trees that come up on this course. I don't think this rough is very penalizing, so you wouldn't think that fairway accuracy is extremely important, right? And you can bomb and gouge this course. We've seen Cameron Champ win this event. Brendan Steele won this event twice. So you don't necessarily have to be the most accurate off the tee. But again, just because the rough isn't very penalizing, but with some of these large oak trees and these large overhanging trees, I do think just having the proper angle into the green would be beneficial for just keeping that ball in the fairway. So we'll see how it plays out this week. The 7th hole, this is a par 3. It measures 212 yards. It ranks 3rd in difficulty. There's a 9% birdie rate compared to a 21% bogey rate. The main goal here is to avoid the 2 bunkers that are positioned on both sides of the green. The green is relatively big, so it would be better to be long rather than to land in one of the 2 penalizing bunkers, in my opinion. But 212 yards, pretty long par 3. It's really all I got to say here. It's definitely a par and move on hole. Moving on to the 8th hole, this is a par 4. It measures 360 yards long. It is one of the shortest par 4s that golfers will see in their round. However, it does rank 10th in difficulty. It's not the easiest hole by any means. The hole has water on the right of the fairway and out of bounds to the left side. The green is one of the more difficult greens on the course. This one slopes from the back to the front. The 9th hole is a par 5. This one presents another great scoring opportunity for golfers. This one, again, is a dogleg left, and it has a front greenside bunker that prevents a lot of eagle opportunities, so many golfers will probably lay up on this hole. But having strong distance control will set you up with many birdie putts throughout each round, or at least a birdie putt throughout each round. Hole 10, this is a par 4. This one measures 422 yards long. It ranks 7th in difficulty. It sees birdies at a 14% rate and bogeys at a 14% rate. So one of those, again, we just got to go for par and move on, in my opinion. The right side of the green is guarded by a fairway bunker and a large oak tree that will be in the mind of golfers on their approach shot. Avoid that large greenside bunker on the left, and golfers should be fine on this hole. A lot of the times, again, just avoid these bunkers, it sounds like, from the course breakdown, and you should, avoiding great strategy, right? Avoid the bunkers, you'll be fine. But that does seem to be one of the main defenses of the course, these large sand bunkers and, again, the large overhanging trees as well. Moving on to hole 11, this is a par 3. It is the shortest par 3 on the course. It measures 182 yards. Golfers will hit their tee shot over water on one of the signature holes on the resort here. The hole can be tricky depending on the pin position, however, so I'll look to see how that changes up throughout the week. Hole 12, it's a par 4. It measures 391 yards. It sees birdies at a 20% rate and bogeys at a 13% rate, ranking it as 12th in difficulty. You must avoid the bunkers and the out of bounds on the right side of the fairway, though. Otherwise, you might be seeing a double bogey, which does come at a 1.7% rate, which is relatively high compared to some of these other holes. Many players use fairway wood off the tee, though, however, to avoid that trouble on the right side. There are 4 bunkers on this hole. There's one on each side of the fairway and one on each side of the green as well. Hole 13, this is a par 4. This one measures 458 yards long. The 13th hole on the north course is one of the more challenging holes in the back 9. The green is protected by 3 large bunkers and is slightly elevated, causing short approach shots to run off the front of the green. 2 of the bunkers protect the back side of the green and look like a bogey just really waiting to happen. I would say the best strategy here is just to aim in the center of the green and hope that you can 2-putt your way onto the 14th hole. Speaking of the 14th hole, this is a par 4. You need to play your drive down the left side to have the best angle on this hole. You also need to avoid the fairway bunker that comes on the right side. The green is pretty large and it's also flat compared to other holes here, so I would say there are some scoring opportunities. I don't think you necessarily need to be the best putter to win this event. We've seen Brendan Steele win this event. Cameron Champ's not necessarily the greatest putter. Max Homa's gotten much better, of course, but I would say, ball striking and just great off the tee and approach play. Again, ball striking in general is going to likely win this event. Hole 15, it's par 3. It measures 189 yards long. This hole is tough as there is water that protects the front right side of the green. There's also a bunker that protects the left side, and it's very difficult to get up and down from that bunker. Par is a pretty good score here, as the hole sees the most double bogeys on the course at 2.4%, likely due to that water that just kind of comes in on the right side, again, the front right side of the green. Hole 16. So we actually end with the five easiest holes on the course. Three of the four easiest holes on the course, actually. So as far as showdown goes, you might want to be targeting guys that start on hole 9 that go through 16, 17, 18, and then hole 1 is also one of the easier holes on the course. Those are 4 great scoring opportunities for guys that, can get that nice birdie streak. Just a little bit easier when you're starting on the back 9 compared to the front 9, just because you have those 4 holes instead of 3. So hole 16, all par 5s see birdies over 35% of the time and are all bogeyed less than 10% of the time. The 16th measures 571 yards and features a small creek that kind of runs throughout the left side of the hole, probably about 10 to 20 yards to the left of the fairway, maybe not that long. There is a fairway bunker and a right greenside bunker that defends this hole, but it should be a birdie hole as well. Sees eagles at a 1.6% rate. So again, many golfers are probably laying up on this hole, but birdies at a 38.5% rate. Look for your guys to score here. Hole 17, it's par 4, 375 yards long. It's one of the shorter par 4s. Also one of the easiest par 4s on the course. It is birdied almost 22% of the time. There are some tall trees that defend the approach shot, so hitting the fairway here is also advantageous. Again, the rough is not very penalizing, but there are some long trees, as you can see in that picture here, that can really get in the way of your approach shot if you're not finding that short grass. The green isn't too difficult, so expect to see many birdies here as well. Again, these final 3 holes are relatively easy compared to the front 9. And then the closing hole, it's a par 5. I don't know how I feel about this course ending with 3 easy holes as well as 2 par 5s to close it out. In the final 3 holes, we'll see, I guess. I don't know. They've been doing it for a year, so what can I really say? But it is going to be, it's never really quite over till the end, especially if it's just a couple shots between the golfers. If you recall from last year, I think McNeely had a 3-shot lead heading into the final 6 or 7 holes, and that definitely evaporated in Homa 1 by 1, mainly because McNeely double bogeyed the 17th hole and kind of gave that one away. So, that's how it goes there. Definitely can have some issues there too. It's not just straight birdies, especially in the final round, right? But the closing hole, again, is another par 5. This one measures 575 yards long. You want to avoid the fairway bunkers on the right side, and you should see another birdie opportunity for your golfers. Max Homa, actually, he eagled the 12th hole last year. He sunk his eagle from a decent ways away in the fairway. It wasn't like a par 5 by any means, but the 12th hole, 391 yards, sunk his approach shot for eagle, and that really pushed his momentum to get that first win of the season, first of 2, and really propelled him into the Tour Championship this year. All right, that is all 18 holes, though. Thanks for sticking with that hole-by-hole breakdown. A couple of key takeaways, like I said, I do think finding the fairway here is, as with all courses, right, but it is advantageous. I would assume people are going to be talking about bombers this week. I think you could really go both ways. Cameron Champ and Brendan Steele led the field in strokes gained off the tee when they won in their respective years, 2017 and 2019, I think it is. So, you can definitely win by bombing, and I would assume Taylor Pendrith will be a name, and Cameron Davis that are talked about quite often this week. Some other key stats. So, driving accuracy I do think is going to be important. Silverado is definitely a second shot golf course, though, in my opinion. 4 of the last 5 winners have ranked inside the top 15 in strokes gained approach at the end of the week. So definitely want to have guys that are sharp with their irons. With most par 72 courses, though, golfers will definitely need to take advantage of those 4 par 5s. Again, all of them are birdied at a 35% rate or higher. So just scoring par or even worse, a bogey on those holes can really leave you with a disadvantage. I wouldn't say putting's the most important stat this week, but these greens are POA and bent grass. So I'm looking at guys that excel on POA greens, especially like those California natives. I really love playing that hometown or home state narrative a lot, just because there's guys that really show up for certain events and just play better when they're, on golf courses that fit what they've grown up on, or golf courses that they played a lot in college, for example, especially when the green type is similar, such as POA. So looking at guys that putt well on POA greens this week, and you can see a top 5 of all of these stats in my article on Fantasy Points that is live already. Go ahead and check that out for me, please. Otherwise, like I said, Silverado is a short golf course, especially in terms of par 72. So if you want to look at, the stat of par 72 courses under 7,200 yards, I do think that's something that could come into play. Tom Hoagy, I think, leads that stat over the last 24 rounds. So otherwise, you can look at Pat James' stat model article for a more in-depth breakdown of those main stats to look at this week. You can find that on Fantasy Points. All right, let me take a drink quick. Gosh, it's good to be back. Okay, a little tournament history, and then we will break down the DraftKings board. Again, Max Homa, he won last year. He shot a 65 in the final round of the 2021 Fortinet Championship. He passed Maverick McNeely. McNeely was again leading by 3 strokes until Homa just came back with that eagle, and he had a few other birdies on that back 9. Double bogey on the 17th hole really let McNeely's drop in the final standings there. He finished runner-up. Mito Pereira finished first in strokes gained tee to green, but he did not have a great week putting, so he finished third. Taylor Gooch and Mark Leishman, 2 live guys, finished in a tie for fourth. Last year, Kevin Na was the highest owned. I don't remember that, but I do remember John Rahm being the highest owned, or one of the highest owned. He was 25%, and he was also like 7.5 to 1, I think it was, which is just ridiculous. I hate when golfers get that low in the odds. I would never touch that, but there was a lot of controversy or debate over the week on, is Rahm really there to actually care, or is he there just to drink some wine with Phil Mickelson and then head over to Wisconsin for the Ryder Cup later the next week? Obviously, Rahm did not play very well. He missed the cut by a couple of shots. Is that because he was motivated on the Ryder Cup? Maybe. Is it because he just didn't play well? I'm not really sure. That's one of my questions that I'm really considering this week. Do we need to fade or target the guys that are playing in the President's Cup next week? I don't know. It's kind of risky to fade all 5 of those guys, 5 probably of the best players in the field, but there's a huge leverage opportunity if you do fade all 5 of those guys. There's probably going to be little to no lineups that are fading, again, all 5 of the President Cups guys. So not sure if I'm going to do that, but again, just something to consider over the week, especially when it comes to ownership. Webb Simpson was 23% last year. He was the 3rd highest owned. He finished T30 and finished 8 under par. Will Zalatoris was 20% owned last year. He's not in the field this year. And Charlie Hoffman was 17% owned. He finished T22 at 10 under par. Last 5 winners of this event, though: Max Homa, 19 under. Stuart Sink, as I mentioned, 21 under. That's the tournament record. Cameron Champ hit 17 under in 2019 to win. Kevin Tway won at 14 under par in 2018, and Brendan Steele hit 15 under par in 2017. You can see how each player did in my Fantasy Points article in terms of a strokes gained perspective. I'll tell you, many of them were really great in ball striking. The field averaged 8 strokes gained in ball striking total throughout their rounds in their path to victory. So again, want to look at guys who are great ball strikers this week. Okay, let's look at the field and the DraftKings board here. I really haven't had a whole lot of time to digest the salaries. Just been so focused on the course breakdown and just my job today. So I haven't really looked at the salaries too much. I had a feeling of where a lot of these guys likely sat, but let's zoom in on this a little bit so we can see that. Okay. So as we probably expected, Hideki Matsuyama and Max Homa are the top 2 guys in the DK salaries, as well as in the odds board as well, or on the betting board too. The field is headlined by Hideki Matsuyama, though, who's making his 5th appearance in Napa Valley. This is his 3rd year in a row, I believe. He played a couple other years in 2015 and 2016. He'll tee it up, though, next week in the President's Cup. As I mentioned, he'll be joined by Taylor Pendrith, Cameron Davis, and Corey Connors on the international team. Max Homa will be part of the U.S. team. He's the 5th that I was talking about. Some of the top players from the Korn Ferry Tour will also transition over to the PGA Tour this week. The top 25 in the final point standings earned their PGA Tour card just over a month ago in Omaha. Shout out. Justin Su, or Sud, don't have these pronunciations down yet, but Carl Yuan and Taylor Montgomery are a few names that I expect to see near the top of the leaderboard multiple times this year. Stuart Sink, Cameron Champ, and Brendan Steele are a few former winners that will be teaming it up this week. Taylor Pendrith, Sahith Theegala, and Davis Riley are a few of the top rookies from last season that will be looking to start their year off with their first PGA Tour victory. And then, of course, Ricky Fowler will be in Napa Valley for the first time, actually. He's never played this event, but he will be teeing it up this week. So California native Ricky Fowler looking to ignite something as he starts his I don't know how many seasons he's been on tour, so another season on tour for Ricky. Okay, so like I said, Hideki is the top price guy. He's at 10-7. Max Homa, Corey Connors is 10-3. I do like Theegala this week quite a bit. He's just a kind of a boomer bust play. He hasn't, I don't know, we've seen him blow up multiple times before. Looks like, yeah, especially the 3M Open, he was one of the favorites heading into the event, or one of the top price players. I don't have his salary in front of me there, but missed the cut there, but really played well in the FedEx playoffs. Didn't have the best tour championship. Looks like he finished one over par, but I really like Theegala on POA. He's putts his best on POA. He actually played really well in the California swing, and that's kind of when he popped. I think that was in Phoenix, but he had some really good events leading up to that, and that was all on POA. So he went to Pepperdine. I believe he grew up in California as well, so I'm kind of riding the California native with Theegala this week, but he's not playing in the President's Cup. He's got nothing to lose this week. He's looking for that first win. We've seen him in contention so many times. He had 5 top 10s last year. I really like Theegala this week. I don't really like the price too much, but I'm curious to see what his ownership will be with some pretty good options around him there as well. Was thinking on my drive home today too, I'm curious to see what McNeely's ownership will be this week. This is a great course fit for him as well. He showed it last year when he almost won the event, but he also is a California native, I believe, and just plays best on POA. He's a good putter, and he putts his best on POA too. So kind of eyeing those two guys at the top. Again, they're not playing in the President's Cup. Not that I'm fully writing that narrative, but I just kind of think there's an ownership play there. Maybe some people will, look at President Cup guys and really gravitate, or what's the word? Attract to those guys, I guess. Sorry, I've been talking too much today. So yeah, I don't know if I'm going to fade those guys, but I do kind of like Theegala, and I do like McNeely. So we'll see what I do with them this week. But there's really not too many bad plays in the 9 to 10K range, in my opinion. I was surprised to see Griot at 9-2, but he really has been playing incredible golf. I don't know if I can get there at that price tag, though. That's one of the highest I've seen him, and it's not like this field is really that bad. I just don't know. That's such a high price for him. But if you really look at his stats recently, and let me pull those up quick, he's truly been playing well, and it's the putter that has been turned around for him. You think of Griot, he's a great tee to green player, but the putting has been improved recently. He's gained stroke putting in 5 straight events, which I cannot tell you the last time he's done that, but he's gained strokes putting since the John Deere Classic, which was the beginning of July. Hasn't played since the BMW Championship, which was nearly a month ago, but looks like he's found something with the flat stick. We've always said with Griot, with Keegan Bradley, right, if these guys could ever just putt well, they could win multiple tournaments. And looks like DraftKings has kind of seen that as well. They've really given him a price increase. I don't think, even with how well he's been playing, I don't think he really deserves. I don't know. He's got a couple of T2s, I guess, over the last 5 events when the putter's been, really well for him, and finished T19 at the BMW in a really stacked field too. So, not really sure. I guess I could look and see what his stats are on POA too, but Maybe it's a little bit different compared to what he's been putting well on. Yeah, Poa is actually his worst putting surface. So, not sure if I'm going to get to Griot this week at 9-2, but just wanted to talk about him at that elevated price. Tom Hoagy, like I said, is the best player on short par 72 courses. He also played relatively well near the end of the season. When did he pop again? I think it was what was it, FedEx or was it the BMW? Looks like no, it was neither. He played well at the Tour Championship, played well at the 3M Open, actually. Finished T4 there, and that kind of pushed him up into that top 30 to get into the Tour Championship. Otherwise, really did not play very well after his victory at the AT&T Pebble Beach Pro-Am, but I do want to say that is on POA. Let's look at Tom Hoagy's putting stats very quickly. Again, kind of surprised to see that price. I just think there are better younger players down there, and he's not a good putter in general, but his best surface is Bermuda. So not in on Hoagy this week. Probably going to pass, especially at that price tag. Davis Riley, Cameron Davis, Taylor Penrith, all great options. Can't really say much about them. You are welcome to play them. Cameron Davis is they're all been playing really well recently. Davis Riley's probably the odd one out for me in terms of this group. I just think the other two have more upside, but yeah, I really don't have any negative things to say about those three. Brendan Steele is the highest owned player in the 8K range. He is 8.9K. It's probably due to his course history here. Again, he's won this event twice, but hasn't really been playing too well since then here. He hasn't finished better than T29 since his victory in 2017. Again, he won this tournament in back-to-back years. He's won 2 of his 3 events on tour at Silverado. Never missed a cut at Napa, though. So if you're looking for a cash play guy that is pretty nearly a lock to make the weekend, Brendan Steele's probably your guy at 8.9K. Crazy to see Webb Simpson priced below a rookie here. But got to talk about Taylor Montgomery a little bit, and would like to kind of talk about some of the other Korn Ferry Tour players as well as we go throughout this player breakdown. Montgomery is the top price player from the Korn Ferry 25 standings from last year. He finished, I believe, in the top 5. I'm looking at a couple different standings. There's one before the Tour Champion or the KFT Championship that I have in my notes, but he was top 5. He played really well in Omaha too when I was following him around. He is great at scrambling. He's 3rd in scrambling. He's a top 5 putter on the Korn Ferry Tour. He was 1st in bogey avoidance on the Korn Ferry Tour as well. 2nd in par 3 scoring and 1st in birdie average too. So, 1st in bogey avoidance, 1st in birdie average, probably a good recipe for success, especially on the Korn Ferry Tour. Really great scrambler too. I don't know if that's going to correlate too much this week, especially compared to another guy in this range, Justin Suh, I think is his name. I'm so used to saying Sue, like the former Nebraska player, Ndamukong Suh, but Justin Suh, I believe, is his pronunciation. Again, Justin Suh, man, I was so ready to. It's not really sneaky, right? But I was so ready to play him and was hoping that he'd be cheaper and relatively low owned. But he went out and won the Korn Ferry Tour Championship, I think, a couple weeks ago. But he is really lights out in nearly all aspects of the game. He was 16th in accuracy, 4th in ball striking, 7th in greens and regulation, 19th in scrambling, 10th or top 10 in putting, and he was 1st in par 5s on the Korn Ferry Tour, which is something that we're really looking for this week. So, like Justin Suh, at 8-2, that's kind of hard for me to get there at his very first time. I guess this isn't his first time on tour. He's actually played this event before too, but he finished, I think it was like T58 or something. I'm pulling him up now. T58, yeah, but man, he had a great season on the Korn Ferry Tour. He finished inside the top 5 4 times, finished inside the top 20 16 times on the Korn Ferry Tour for a 64% rate of top 20 finishes. So that's really not rare, but it's the Korn Ferry Tour, but that's really impressive for a guy like that. So like Justin Suh this week, we'll see what ownership does. I feel like a lot of people are excited to play these guys for the very first time, but don't forget about rookies from last year like Stefan Jaeger, that was playing really well near the end of the season that might be overlooked because there's these shiny new toys out there that we can all play. And don't get me wrong, I'm really excited to play these guys, but I'm definitely going to keep an eye on ownership because I don't want to play, a rookie at 20% ownership just because everyone's excited to play him. And who knows, these guys could be extremely nervous in their first start. It's not a lot of their first starts on tour, but it's their first official start, in a PGA Tour season when FedEx points are really going to count and they can play 20 to 30 events, for example. So 30 might be a stretch, but it looks like Hoagy played 30 last year. But again, we'll see with ownership. I really am going to keep an eye on that. I don't want to play a rookie again at 20% ownership by any means. A couple other guys I want to throw out. Thomas Detry is going to probably have some ownership to him. I've been playing really well recently too. He's been flipping back and forth between the DP World Tour and the Korn Ferry Tour Championship in the playoffs there. Let me pull him up here. Finished T5 at the BMW Championship, which was the not the PGA one, but it's the DP World Tour one. Missed a couple of cuts on the Korn Ferry Tour. In my opinion, from watching him or at least looking at his stats, he plays really well in Europe, but hasn't necessarily been able to turn that over here in the U.S. There's a couple of players like that that tend to do that too, but he's played in some really weak PGA Tour events like the Corrales and the Butterfield, Bermuda. Otherwise, it's been a lot of DP World Tour events, and he's got a lot of potential too. He's a bomber, in my opinion. Pretty solid off the tee. Let me look at his career summary. Yeah, gains off the tee, can putt pretty well. Again, it's going to be more of an ownership thing for me. It's kind of interesting to see Merritt price above him, but I do believe Merritt has some decent results here, or maybe he just graded out really well for me. I think he's I don't want to be talking without my notes in front of me, but yeah, has a T4 here, a T15, and a T16. Merritt's got some decent course history. A lot of these guys in this 8K range are priced there because of their course history or just how they've been doing in the Korn Ferry Tour, for example. Or I guess there's Webb Simpson. So Trey Molinex, guy to keep an eye out this week. I'm probably not going to get there. He played really well to finish out this season, but 8-3, I just think there are better guys, better options around him. I'm probably going to avoid a lot of this 8K range. If you're trying to get different, play guys in the 8K range that aren't Montgomery or Justin Suh. Maybe Molinex and Detry get some ownership, but I would assume a lot of the field just skips this range and sticks in the 9K to 10K range and goes with that Stars and Scrubs build this week. A few more guys, and then we'll get out of here for the night. We're moving on to the 7K range now. I do want to talk about Carl Yuan too, who was leading the Korn Ferry Tour points list for a majority of the season. I think he had, I'm going to have to pull him up. He's extremely volatile. If you look at his stats there, he made 13 out of 23 cuts, but he had 8 top 10s. Okay, that's kind of crazy to wrap your mind around. Again, he only made the weekend 13 times, but in 8 of those 13, he finished inside the top 10. So he is definitely a boomer bust play. Again, he finished first in the Korn Ferry Tour standings before the playoffs, and then Justin Suh won the Tour Championship or the KFT Championship. Yuan's not a great putter, a great ball striker, not necessarily the best scrambler, in my opinion. It looks, at least looking at stats. He was 7th in distance, 15th in ball striking. I would say that's likely his strength. Let me look at his golf data page. Yeah, not necessarily the best putter, but there's not a whole lot of stats to go off of. He only had one PGA Tour start last year, and he missed the cut that weekend. But lots of top 5 finishes last year. He finished inside the top 5 7 times. So again, made the cut 13 times. Finished inside the top 5 7 of those 13 times. So half the times he made the weekend, he was inside the top 5. So if you're playing him, you definitely need to know it's a boomer bust play. I'm curious to see what ownership does with him too. There's no doubt in my mind he is going to finish inside the top 5 multiple times on the PGA Tour as well. If you haven't watched him before, his swing is crazy. I swear it's never the same. So you swing nerds out there are probably going to hate Carl Yuan, but like I said, he's got some potential. He finishes inside the top 5 plenty of times. He won the Louisiana Open in March. And I do think we're going to see his name near the top of the leaderboard plenty of times. I don't know if he'll win this season. I don't think I want to get that bold with a prediction yet. I think I'd rather take Justin Suh before Carl Yuan, but I don't know. I would not be surprised to see him winning maybe one of those lesser known events, especially when a major's going on or something like that. So he'll be around, that's for sure. He's only 25 years old too, so he's going to be on tour likely for a little while. Okay, a couple other guys I want to talk about, especially some Korn Ferry Tour guys. Probably going to stay away from Woodland this week. Kirk, Jason Day, Champ. Yeah, like I said, I just could see a lot of the Korn Ferry Tour guys gaining ownership because they're new and they have so many great results in their data page there, or their game log, right? Matt Kuchar could be a sneaky play. He just plays really well, or he's got great short game, I guess. Playing out here in California, you don't really have to worry about distance with him this week. So I do think there is an advantage, of course, for Baumann this week, but I'm not going to rule out guys like him or even Chez Reavie, who has great stats or great course history here. Let me pull up Reavie. Reavie won the Barracuda Championship earlier this year as well, which was also played in California, so he does play well in California. He's not really the best putter, but POA is his best putting surface. His best finishes here are a T3, a T13, and a T17, and he's never missed the weekend as well. He's made 10 out of 10 cuts, which is very impressive. So Brendan Steele, Chez Reavie, they've made 18 out of 18 cuts here. Great cash plays in my opinion to start you off. Other course history options to consider: Kevin Streelman has some top 25s here. He has 3 top 25s in 4 out of 7 made cuts. Patrick Rogers, he's made the weekend 6 out of 8 times. He's finished T6 twice here. Justin Hadley, 4 out of 7 made cuts. He's finished T3, T14, and T23 as his best course history options. And Brent Sendeker, too, might have been a while, but he finished T2 here, T17 a couple of times, too. So I'm not going to probably get to him, but just wanted to throw him out. Again, don't forget about rookies from last year that were starting to play well, like a Taylor Moore, for example. Really started turning on near the end of the season, got into the BMW Championship thanks to a couple of top 6s before the event started, or the playoff started. Nick Hardy, probably not for me this week. Wouldn't mind looking at JJ Spawn. He's a fairway finder. I think he plays decently well in California as well. Alex Smalley, a rookie from last year, priced below some rookies from this year, might be a guy to put your eye on. Patrick Rogers is a guy that I wrote up in my article. I think I'll be locking him in a lot of my DFS lineups. Not going to go crazy with him, of course, but 7,300. He finished T6 here last year. Had some decent results to finish out the season, a couple of top 30 finishes, I believe, but nothing too impressive. Let me look at his game log. T36, T30, T31, T18. So I just think he plays best in California. I believe he went to school here as well. So, again, kind of looking at the California narrative this week. All right, a couple other guys I'll throw out here before we leave. Eckroat, probably going to get some buzz this week. Zach Blair has some good course history here. He's also on a medical start, and he's been playing decently well on the Korn Ferry Tour. Finished inside the top 35 in the last 5, and I think he was hurt, and that's why he was on the Korn Ferry Tour, and now he's getting that medical start here. But this is one of the best courses that he's ever played on, too. So, obviously, if he's going to pick a place, it's probably going to be one that he's used to. So he's motivated to play well this week. Could be a very low-owned play for a guy that's kind of playing a little bit better. You can read about that there. But, again, I saw that he had that medical start this week. So, I don't know, just a deep GPP play. Brandon Wu, another guy that has a couple of decent finishes to close out the year. He finished T6 at the Scottish, T8 at the Wyndham Championship. He is also a California kid, so probably going to ride that narrative. And he's a guy that played decently well in those Birdie Fest, John Deere Classic, Rocket Mortgage, hit 11 under par, Wyndham 11 under par. So, again, a guy that I'm probably going to target, again, probably because of the California native, and he's a birdie scorer too. John Hubb ranked out really, really well for me in my model, which was kind of scary to see, I guess. Should pull that back up. But yeah, he ranked really well for me. I think he's a great par 5 scorer, and he's a birdie getter as well. Finished T2 at the Wyndham. Not sure where John Huh is from. I'll have to look that up, but yeah, I do think I'm going to be playing him at only 7,000 flat. Otherwise, Chesson Hadley. Again, there's some rookies down here that I could talk about, but I guess MJ Duffy is a guy that we'll bring up. He jumped onto the scene when he finished T31 at the US Open. I got to watch him a little bit as well in Omaha here. He can drive the golf ball a long ways. I think he finished second in driving distance last year. Let me pull up his stats. Yeah, second in driving distance on the Korn Ferry Tour. He finished top 10 in par 5 scoring too. So, talked about it in the course breakdown. Par 5 scoring is going to be really important this week. MJ Duffy did pretty well in par 5s on the Korn Ferry Tour. Wouldn't be surprised if he did well this week. 6,800. Yeah, I think I like him this week. So, otherwise, no one really stands out for me too much here. It gets pretty ugly down here, guys that, they just aren't playing well recently or didn't finish this season very well, in my opinion. Augusto Nunez is another Korn Ferry Tour player guy. I think he finished inside the top 10 in the final point standings. I think Brandon Matthews is also in the field here. Brandon Matthews finished inside the top 10 as well. He was 6th in driving distance. He's not a great scrambler, though, but not necessarily the most important factor here. Yeah, otherwise, that's all I really got to say. And Vincent Norrman, too, last one I'll bring up. He is going to be the new Luke List of the PGA Tour as a rookie. He was a great ball striker. Let me get his stats pulled up here quick. He was 1st in ball striking, 2nd in greens and regulation, 7th in scrambling. Okay, pretty good combination, right? But he was a terrible putter. That's kind of why he wasn't better than 23rd in the final points there. He ranked 4th in bogey avoidance, so he was hitting greens all the time, right? He wasn't, making many mistakes, but he just could not make enough birdies to, win any events or, play as well as some of those other guys. So let me pull up Vincent Norrman, stats in his course page really quick here. I don't have many stats on him, but looks like he finished inside the top 5, top 10 a couple of times. So, yeah, like I said, I do think he's going to be the new Luke List of the tour. Great ball striker, great tee to green player, but he's just going to miss too many putts too. Or he's going to miss a lot of putts that will make you frustrated, I guess. So, but at only $6,400, not a bad option. Again, we're really looking for solid tee to green play this week. Vincent Norrman could be a low-owned option. All right, that is all I got for you here. I don't think I see any comments there. I think my favorite play might be Sahith Theegala. Probably going to bet him as well. California guy, plays really well on POA. Yeah, I think that's going to be my favorite play. So if you have any other questions, you can reach out to me on Twitter. Thanks for tuning in here tonight. Appreciate you all spending some time with me as we break down the Silverado golf course. Good luck this week. Good luck in Showdown tonight if you're playing in NFL in the Monday Night Football game tonight. And we will see you all next week on Monday. Good luck, everyone, and have a great rest of your night.